Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the most overpowered Sword Bard Paladin multiclass in Baldur's Gate 3's patch 8. Now what changed in patch 8 is we got some new spells, some items were fixed that we'll be utilizing for this build, and we're going to be also adding in the new Oath of the Crown Paladin, which can give us Righteous Clarity, adding a proficiency bonus to attack rolls, so we're more likely to land our attacks. Previously the Vengeance Paladin was nice for the additional damage for 2 turns, but I think this one actually works out a little bit better. Now, I'll be going over the full leveling guide, trying not to waste anybody's time. If you're starting the game, 6 levels of Bard, but if you're multi-classing from another time in the game, start with a Paladin. This is the only way to get heavy armor proficiency here, so we'll be going with that in the Oath of the Crown. And for our ability scores, we can go with something like this. I prefer going with the dexterity build for this for a couple reasons. Early game, we can use the Fowler Alluve weapon. It's going to be dexterity based, but later on, there's a lot of really good dexterity based weapons. This also gives us increased initiative. And if we go with medium armor, that adds to our overall armor class. Strength can work too, though, if you prefer it. So you can spec out and use the strength score. And you can also put the points into Constitution and bring that up higher, or put the points into, we got our max points in here, but you can also take this to 17 and use the Hag's Hair if you prefer as well. Level 2 is where we get our biggest feature, that is Divine Smite. We can also add this to a reaction, so when we use our sword flourishes, we can attack 2 targets and smite both of them. Very, very powerful. For the fighting style, defense makes a lot of sense here because we're going to use armor, and this will just add a +1 to it. Dueling can be nice too if you want to use a shield, but I think defense wins here. Now for the prepared spells, I'd recommend taking command. This is the only way that we'll be able to get this unless we want to use our magical secrets, and we don't want to burn that on it. We'll also take the smites, and you can go with Bless if you want an early game concentration to focus on. Yeah, Bless is probably the best, or the Shield of Faith. Level 3 does give us the very nice Champions Challenge, which can draw aggro to ourselves, but I think it's best to go with the Bard at this point, because at level 10 we get magical secrets, and we can take some powerful spells. So for the cantrips, I'd recommend going with the Vicious Mockery. Sounds hilarious, but Mage Hand is also good because you can drop a health potion. It's a free action, and then your Mage Hand can throw it for free, keeping you sustained with health. And for the spells that we take, and I like the Healing Word for a bonus action healed. And then we'll also take the Thunder Wave because the pushback can sometimes take enemies out. I also like to have Long Strider if you have no one else in your team that has it, and Dissonant Whispers, as that's a decent spell to use as well. At level 2 here, we get our Jack of all trades, adding half proficiency bonus to anything we're not proficient in, and the Song of Rest, giving us an extra short rest. We'll also take another spell here, Fairy Fire, I guess, or Disguise Self. You can use Disguise Self and turn yourself into a Githyanki to use Githyanki weapons as well, if you'd like. But here at level 3 is when we get our biggest benefit with these College of Swords flourishes. Defensive flourish is huge, getting a +40 armor class. Can't understate how useful that is. But the big thing here is the Slashing Flourish, which allows us to attack 2 targets at once, apply our Divine Smite damage to both of them. Extremely useful. And we also get the Ranged Slashing Flourish, which still to this day at patch 8 allows you to attack the same target twice, so it's not a bug. You can do that. And we'll also get another fighting style where we can actually take dueling at this point. Or if you want to use a second weapon in the offhand, you can go with 2-weapon fighting. I was thinking that dueling with a shield makes more sense here. And we get to take a level 2 spell, which I think Hold Person is the strongest to go with. It's an enchantment spell, and it's going to give us free crits on the enemy, which the Smite is extremely powerful. Level 4, we get another cantrip. Minor Illusion, super good because you can compel enemies to go to a certain area and then drop a spell on them. And for the next level spell, Invisibility can be useful. Cloud of Daggers doesn't have a check on the damage, so you can drop this down. It's going to do damage to the enemy. Shatter's another option for consistent damage. And Silence, it's a good spell. I think that the best one here is either Invisibility or the Cloud of Daggers. I know a lot of people love Cloud of Daggers. And for our final, or for our next level here, a boost to our Charisma or our Dexterity here makes a lot of sense. Dexterity will give us better armor class if we're going to use light armor or medium armor, but I think that the Charisma increase is best. Level 5, our Bardic Inspiration goes to a 1d8, and then we also get our Bardic Inspiration after a short rest now, which are great. And we get access to level 3 spells. Plant Growth is good because it doesn't require concentration. If you're a half-elf, Glyph of Warding is amazing because you can drop the Glyph of Sleep on yourself and drop everyone that's around you. And the Fear spell is also pretty useful because targets will drop everything and get disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls and a cone away from your character. So that's also pretty good to have, so we'll take that. Into level 6, this is when we get our Counter Charm, but the big thing being the extra attack. And that's why I said to take Bard to level 6 at the start of the video if you're currently starting a new run. Extra attack is a huge power spike. You want to get this as quickly as possible, and then you could go with the 2 levels of Paladin right after. So that's how you spec if you're doing this from the start of the game. Glyph of Warding, again, or Plant Growth, these are both concentration-free, crowd control-esque spells. This reduces movement speed. This can put everyone to sleep, especially useful if you're a half-elf. I'm gonna go plant growth though, because that's actually really nice. Outside of combat, you can set that up if you know you're getting into a fight. At level 7, we get access to level 4 spells, and I think that Greater Invisibility and Confusion are two of the best ones here. These are usable with the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel, which is an item you can get in Act 3. After you do a melee attack, you can do an illusion or an enchantment spell as a bonus action, making this really strong, and I'll show that off a little bit more in depth later on. We'll go with Confusion there, and then for this one, we'll take the Greater Invisibility. And then we also get a feat at level 8 here, so at this point, we can take a Charisma stat all the way up to 20 there. It just makes sense. Level 9, we get ourselves another choice in spells with the enchantment spell Hold Monster. Very useful in Act 3, so we want that. Dominate Person is also has a use case. I don't love that spell traditionally, but it can be nice. But level 10 is the big benefit here. We get our... You could take Friends at the start of the game if you wanted to. We also get we can take Dominate Person here. We can go back and take Glyph of Warding. Your choice there and what you want. But the big thing here is we get the Magical Secrets. This lets us take spells from earlier on. So if we want Banishing Smite, we got it. Now, the only sad thing is they didn't include the Shadow Blade into this, which is a new spell that was added with patch 8. So you can't grab that. There is Hunger Fadar. There is Spirit Guardians. I love Spirit Guardians. Conjure Elemental is another really powerful spell if you want that, because you can go create a Water Elemental. It'll set up Chilled, which makes the enemy take double cold damage. So Cone of Cold works very well with that. Depends what you want to hold a concentration on. If you prefer going around and doing radiant attacks, Spirit Guardians is probably your best bet. If you prefer having Hold Person held, then that's probably better. But you can also use you got a lot of options for concentrations, but Command is also a concentration-free crowd control you can use. Counterspell also has its uses, and even things like Lightning Bolt can be nice as well. But I think that these two probably work the absolute best here out of all of them, Cone of Cold and Spirit Guardians. Hunger Fadar is also pretty useful, and Banishing Smite has its uses, but I think these two work best. The skill proficiencies, you can take that, obviously, in Intimidation there. So, very solid final level. So, for gear, there's actually a lot of options that we have. The Helmet of Arcane Acuity is possibly one of the best items in the game for this, because we can do our attack and use a spell like any, or we can use our Arrow of Many Targets. It can hit 5 targets to give us a +10 to our spell save DC, which is pretty solid. It's an 18 there, so that's with our Charisma modifier added to it. So that can go up to a 28 just from the Arcane Acuity alone. We also have the Cloak Protection. If you're the Dark Urge, use the Deathstalker Mantle. The best armor class in the game would probably be the Armor Persistence. It reduces all incoming damage by 2. You get Resistance in Blade Ward, so you take half physical damage and get a 1d4 bonus to your saving throws. Disadvantage on stealth checks, but if you want to use stealth, then you go with the Armor of Agility, which will give us the same armor class. Instead of getting Resistance in Blade Ward, you get a +2 to your saving throws. So that is pretty good too. You can use the Helldusk Armor if you really want to. Another good armor set is actually the Luminous Armor here. So this can, whenever we deal radiant damage, we cause a radiant shockwave. So what's great about that is every time we do a smite, we're going to create irradiating orbs on the enemies, which is huge. Some other options, you could go with clothing, I guess, if you really wanted to. But I think that the best things are heavy armors. Adamantine Scale Mail is probably your best earlier in the game. The Ballless Armor also has its uses because you can apply vulnerability to piercing damage and then do a ton of damage that way. But I think the Luminous Armor is a great item in the early act of the game. We also got the Gloves of the Bliggering Skies, which can stack Reverberation with Thunder or Lightning damage. We got Thunder Wave, we got Divine Smite, but some other really good options is actually going with the Wondrous Gloves here, which increases armor class by 1. That's great, but it gives you another Bardic Inspiration use, which is nice. So that means more flourishes for us. Wondrous Gloves are pretty awesome. You can also go with, if you wanted to focus on more radiant damage, the Luminous Gloves, which will stack radiating orbs on the target and gives a +1 to strength saving throws. Helldusk Gloves goes good on any melee spellcaster hybrid, so that's another option. Early game, Gloves of Missile Snaring to protect your team can be good as well. And another item that actually got really fixed into patch 8 is the Gloves of the Battle Mage's Power. Now, when you hit a target with a spell or a cantrip that uses a weapon, or Divine Smites will apply that, you gain Arcane Acuity. So if you don't want to use a helmet and you just want to go around smiting to stack up your spell save DC, this can be the way to do it. But you got options there. I think the Wondrous Gloves for the better armor class, and Bardic Inspiration is great. We also got Evasive Shoes, a +1 armor class. Disintegrating Nightwalker is another good choice, and even the Boots of Stormy Clamor if you got the Illithid ability Drain, which can give you 2 turns of Reverberation on attack. Now, we also got the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel. This is the best in Slot Ring. When we hit an enemy with an attack, we can cast an illusion or enchantment spell as a bonus action, which That means Vicious Mockery. That means Command. That means Hold Person. That means Confusion. That means Hold Monster. That means Fear. You can see where this is going. This is really good. Being able to cast a spell as a bonus action is a massive buff. And the Ring of Protection is also nice too. The Killer Sweetheart for the critical hit. It's good. Crypt Lord Ring if you want to summon undead. Ring of Free Action, ignoring effects of difficult terrain because we need to move in and smite. That's also good. I'm actually going to take off the Ring of Protection because there's another really useful ring here with the it has the same appearance there. Ring of Arcane Synergy. When you deal with damage with a cantrip, you gain Arcane Synergy for 2 turns. This is also really good because we can use a cantrip and then we get our Charisma modifier added to our attacks. So +5 for 2 turns. And if you use the Birthright Hat, that's a +6. So that can become even better. The Caustic Band is another nice ring because we're going to be doing a lot of area of effect attacks with our flourishes. So the additional 2 damage on that is also nice, especially with arrow many targets. So you can also go with something like that. And if the targets are glowing, you can use the Callous Glow Ring to do additional damage to them as well. Now I have the Hellrider Longbow for that +3 to initiative. And for weapons, the Infernal Rapier here is really good because it gives a bonus to our spell save DC. And it'll use our Charisma for its attack rolls. And it gives us a free summon with the Cambion, which is just nice for drawing aggro away from our teammates. But if you want, the early game Knife of the Undermountain King is another good dexterity-based weapon that really powers us up, and it gives us the Shadow Blade ability. Then we also got Fowler Alluve, as mentioned. Very good weapon for this because it's dexterity-based, and you can do the Streaking Song to deal additional thunder damage to enemies. Dolor Amaris for the free crit if you want to use a second weapon in the offhand. Also, the Sacred Star is a good one if you want to spec around strength, as this will apply Radiating Orbs on the target. And you could go with 2-handed weapon if you really wanted to, but I think that the Infernal Rapier or the Fowler Alluve are 2 of the better ones that aren't too hard to get. Then we have Iconia's Walking Fortress, the best shield, so we're going to stay safe with this. So I'll show you what this looks like in combat, how to make the most out of it. Now, if you want to be cheeky, you can use a staff with Arcane Battery to precast a Spirit Guardians. If we upcast this, we have that 68 of radiant damage, or you can use Necrotic if there's any type of Radiant Retort. So we also got the Righteous Clarity. I pre-applied that as well as use as a bonus action, so we used up our Channel Oath. Another thing to keep in mind is when you go to your Reactions tab, to turn on your smites on critical hit and turn on your smite reactions so that when we do our flourishes, it's going to burn through the spell slots. Don't set this above level 4 because you'll start burning through level 6 spell slots. That's not fun. We don't want to do that. So make sure that you do have those turned on for everything below level 4 so that when we go in and do a flourish, it's going to do a ton of damage. So first things first, with Spirit Guardians, it's all about applying those to the enemy as much as possible. 31 damage, we'll take that. We'll eat the opportunity attack, that is fine. That was enough to take them out, and we'll hopefully be able to do an attack on these 2 here. So we'll that didn't work out. I wanted to do a slashing flourish on 2 targets, but our Spirit Guardians is making that a difficult task. So I guess we could use a defensive flourish to be able to increase our overall armor class, as that's not a bad thing to do as well. So we can just do an attack there, and we just roll an attack, boom. It adds that additional necrotic damage, and boom, yeah, that was solid. I'd also recommend going after spellcasters. All we had to do was walk towards them. Spirit Guardians is crazy. And then we can go ahead with we can do a mobile flourish as well. So this will actually push the target, and then you can teleport. And so that's pretty useful. Boom, we can go with our attack there. That was a lot of damage, and we didn't even have to use our critical hit on smite. And then we have our flourish teleport afterwards, so we can use that. If we need to get closer to another enemy, we can use that to sneak up. If we hit them with a blade flourish, I guess we have to do that first. So we can always just run over to them. And finally, we'll use just a regular attack here. I guess we can use Divine Smite. We'll do a low level one. Hopefully take them out with that. Perfect. So now we got the ability to use our bonus action. We can use a Vicious Mockery, but I think Command is probably our best option for the spell. So we're going to go with a Command Approach since we have Spirit Guardians up. And can see a few targets that we want to land this on. So we'll go with a level 3. 99% hit chance, 96. Since we have Arcane Acuity, it's already +8. So we have a 26 spell save DC. That's why you're seeing the targets be very unlikely to succeed on that. The target or command approach is really useful too, because when we apply that, they're going to run into our Spirit Guardians. So we'll do that on the 3 targets that I can reach. And we landed it on all 3 of them, which is perfect. And we still have another weapon attack, I guess, so I'll use that to just do a slashing flourish with the bow. Because we can hit 2 targets with the same one, and that's going to apply our acid arrow or acid ring twice. And we can also apply fairy fire to give advantage on that. If you have a rogue, that's very nice. and they're just going to run towards us and hit themselves off our Spirit Guardians like silly fools. So that's one of the most beautiful things about Command is it doesn't require concentration, so we don't lose our concentration right now. And it's just going to continually keep drawing the enemies in. And you can see that there. They run back into our Spirit Guardians. All is well because, yeah, they're just going to continually keep hurting ourselves. And then our turn, I was going to do a Slashing Flourish on them. We'll see if we can do a Slashing Flourish on these two. Yeah, we can. Perfect. This is exactly what I wanted to show off. So the Slashing Flourish here with a melee attack. The best part about Slashing Flourish, as you can see, hit 2 targets here, so we can go boom, and that was enough to take out both of them. We didn't have to use our Divine Smites, so yeah, that was pretty crazy. Now, we also got spell casting too, so that's another thing you don't want to forget about. There's 1 target left. We can do our Quickening Incantation on them. Do a Vicious Mockery. Vicious Mockery is hilarious. It's well worth doing. And then, anytime we have a ranged target, I would recommend trying to get closest to the enemies as possible. You can also use Glyphs of Warding if you want to, but again, we got the Slashing Flourish ranged. We may as well use it, so boom, double arrows. That was enough to finish them off. As I mentioned, this is extremely overpowered. Probably the best build in the game. Getting your spell save DC up really high, really easily. Spirit Guardians and Mobile Flourishes, Slashing Flourishes. You got movement, you got armor class, you got it all really with this build. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below as well. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all in the next video.